Today, we're going to dive into a brutal, desperate battle from the American Civil War. Now, this is a fight you probably haven't heard of, but it became a pivotal trial by fire for some of the Union's newest and most underestimated soldiers.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The date is June 7th, 1863. We're on a simple river levee in Louisiana called Millikens Bend. For weeks, this place has just been a rear area supply depot. But right now, in the pre-dawn darkness, it's about to become the front line. That was the cry coming from the Confederate soldiers as they charged the Union line. The stakes were made crystal clear right from the jump for the men defending that levee. This wasn't just a battle, it was a fight for survival.
Yeah, this thing was a chaotic, close-quarter slugfest, and its sheer ferocity was about to surprise commanders on both sides.
But you might be asking, why was this fight happening here, of all places, on some remote Louisiana levee? Well, to get that, we need to zoom out. This wasn't some random skirmish. It was a critical piece of the massive Union campaign to capture Vicksburg, Mississippi. I mean, listen to how the Confederate President Jefferson Davis put it himself. Vicksburg was the absolute key to controlling the entire Mississippi River. If Vicksburg fell, the Confederacy would be literally split in two. The whole war could hinge on what happened there. And you can see right here on this timeline, the Battle of Millikens Bend happened smack in the middle of the siege. Confederate forces were desperately trying to mess with Ulysses S. Grant's supply lines to save the city, and that desperation led them straight to this Union outpost. So, now let's talk about who was actually defending that outpost, because this is the real heart of our story. The defenders weren't veteran Union troops. They were something entirely new, and they faced an enemy in front of them and a whole lot of prejudice within their own ranks. The soldiers holding that line were from the U.S. Colored Troops regiments. We're talking recently freed slaves, many of whom had never even held a gun before enlisting. You know, the common thinking in the Union Army at the time was that they'd be great for manual labor, maybe guard duty, but fight on the front lines? No way. Many believed they just wouldn't fight. That belief was about to get violently proven wrong. So, the stage is set. Let's get back to that levee and see exactly how this trial by fire unfolded.
It all kicks off around 3 in the morning. 1,500 Confederate Texans storm the levee. The Union troops get off a single volley, but their training was so new they didn't even have time to reload. The fight instantly becomes this brutal hand-to-hand nightmare. They're fighting with bayonets, using their rifles like clubs. The Union line breaks, and they're pushed all the way back to the river's edge. It looks like it's over, a total rout, until the massive guns of the Union gunboat USS Choctaw open up, stopping the Confederate attack cold. Now, what's really fascinating here is the report from the Confederate commander himself. He pointed out that the white Union soldiers, who were actually a veteran Iowa regiment, were routed, but the African-American soldiers fought back with what he called considerable obstinacy. Even in the middle of this chaos, their enemy had to acknowledge their surprising grit. But that obstinacy, that grit, and the respect it would ultimately earn, well, it came at an absolutely staggering cost. Take a look at these numbers. The Union suffered 492 casualties, way more than the Confederates' 185. But here's the kicker. Of those nearly 500 Union casualties, all but 65 were from the African-American regiments. They bore the overwhelming brunt of this fight. 68%. Just let that sink in for a second. That's the percentage of men the 9th Louisiana Infantry lost, killed, wounded, or missing. That was the highest casualty rate suffered by any African-American regiment in a single battle during the entire war. And this chart just brilliantly illustrates the scale of that sacrifice. The 9th Louisiana lost 66 men killed in action in one day. That's more than the famously hard-hit 1st Minnesota lost at the Battle of Gettysburg, a fight that is legendary for its carnage. Word about their valor spread like wildfire. The U.S. Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton, directly credited this one battle with proving all the doubters wrong. What happened at Millikens Bend was changing perceptions at the very highest levels of the government. And it wasn't just the politicians. The commander of the entire Vicksburg campaign, Ulysses S. Grant, called their conduct most gallant. Their own commanding generals said it was impossible for men to show greater gallantry. Millikens Bend really started to turn the tide of prejudice within the Union Army itself.
So, the true legacy of Millikens Bend is so much bigger than the patch of ground that was held. It leaves us with this question to chew on. What does it mean when a battle's greatest significance isn't the land that was won, but the fundamental respect that was earned with blood, courage, and an unimaginable price.